with your ocean. You like love sour, then you should come try my poison.
Oh, hey, it's that time again. It's time for another first chapter. I'm Rodney V. Smith. The V is for victorious because you gotta win sometime. And I'm a Wattpad author and star. Also the winner of the Watty Award winning novel, The Canefield Killer. That's in 2018. It's available on Wattpad, so make sure to check it out. Now, for Black History Month in Canada and the US, Wattpad has compiled a list of books to feature and to celebrate Black stories. I'm using that list as well as some of my own selections to bring these stories into focus, and the authors as well. Best way to do that? Well, I'm going to be reading the first chapter of each book, just so that you can get an idea of what each of the book is about, and you can make your own judgment. The words definitely speak for themselves. And tonight's chapter, well, that is from my novel, So I Might Be a Vampire. As always, the links are in the description. Okay, ready for this? Let's go. Okay, so we're going to get the synopsis up. So I'm going to skip over some of the notes here, but So I Might Be a Vampire. Everything I'm about to tell you is a lie. Well, except the parts that actually happened, but I'm supposed to let you guess which those are. The parts about me being a vampire, working at a porn shop, and being completely clueless about vampires, those are completely true. Oh, and the parts about Claude, my best friend for life, being a gentleman thief, all true. This is not a misguided and sordid tell-all about being a modern-day vampire. Wink wink. My vampire club for accidental vampires, Friends of Vlad, does not exist. Neither do vampires like the terrifying and beautiful Beatrice. There is no big vampire boss named Harry pushing vampires into the 21st century. Also, nope about the vampire club in the heart of Toronto, and a big nope on Madame Vera's House of the Not So Dead. I'm just an ordinary guy who became a vampire. Nothing unusual about that. Nothing at all. This is a I'm just gonna say this is a comedy, so it's a little bit different than your other vampire novels. I really shouldn't be doing that because it's against my own rules. Anyway, we're gonna go into the first chapter, which is actually the prologue. So prologue. Oh, content warning: this book is, as you can see by the little parental advisory, it's absolutely true. Parental advisory is I say fuck a lot, and I do mean it. So this is where we're gonna begin. Prologue. Burn, motherfucker, burn. Pro tip for humans, number 141. You can either look like a badass or you can be the badass. The cherry red Camaro raced across the desert highway like a bat with its ass lit on fire, a plume of dust rising from the road behind it. The dust served two purposes. One, it made the car look completely badass, and two, it obscured the coming light of dawn that promised to drown the land in the light of a new goddamn day. I wish I could say that I was watching this scene from a great distance, knowing that something epic was about to occur, but that would not be accurate. Like, at all. More like what people call a lie. Focus now on the muscle car plowing its way across the landscape, its windows tinted a very illegal shade of dark. If you had any desire to meet any vampires on that morning, you would have had to look no further than at that car. Almost there, Bobbykins. 2 minutes, and then you're gonna burn, said the crazed, yet extremely attractive blonde woman who drove the car as aggressively as she could. I've got a nice spot picked out just for you. Beatrice was the kind of woman that this muscle car had been made for. The designer hadn't known it at the time, of course, but if pressed, he might have described the scene just like this. A beautiful blonde woman manhandling his well-designed and loud assemblage of machinery across a desert. Get that out of there. He might have anticipated that this woman would be decked out in black from head to toe, including the leather gloves on her hands and the leather jacket that fit her curves as if it had been tailored for her, which in fact it had been. He might have also anticipated that she would be an expert driver, What he definitely would not have considered was that this woman was a vampire. Since she isn't the one telling the story, and because I'm still very pissed off at her, I'm gonna lie and say that she isn't that important. The reason I'm still pissed off at her is that at that very moment, I was in the trunk of the car and it was not getting any more comfortable. I don't want to burn, I yelled back, although it was doubtful how much she could actually hear me over the engine. Then again, vampire hearing is pretty damn good. I don't want to do any of this. Dying is the only way to truly live, Beatrice yelled back. That doesn't make any sense. I kicked once again at the closed trunk, even though my efforts so far had been futile. I had no idea how long I had been in the trunk, but it wasn't someplace I wanted. I'm going to say that again. Wow. I kicked once again at the closed trunk, even though my efforts so far had been futile. I had no idea how long I had been in the trunk, but it wasn't someplace I wanted to stay. Smears and streaks of my blood covered almost every surface in the trunk. It was like a freaking Jackson Pollock painting if he had only the color red to work with. Yes, I can see in the dark, one of the handy things about being a vampire. My hands were almost hamburger by that point from constantly hammering on every available surface. When someone is threatening to throw you out at sunrise and set you on fire, you kinda owe it to yourself to avoid that fate with as much energy as possible. The kick worked it this time. There came the creak and snap of something metal breaking. The trunk flew open with almost no effort, and I stared stupidly at the open space for way too long. The cloud of dust rising behind the car, painting the scene with a sense of surreal what the fuck. I hadn't even had time to really process what had happened. And to be honest, I had zero plans beyond getting the damn trunk open. Over the soaring wind, I somehow heard Beatrice swear. I didn't wait. I cursed myself for being an atheist since I didn't have any kind of god to pray to or swear at, and threw myself out of the back of the car. There's a saying about throwing yourself out the back of a moving vehicle traveling at what feels to be the speed of light. The saying goes something like this: don't do it. If this were a book, if this were a movie, it would be the exact time they would do a hilarious freeze frame of me flying through the air. This would be the split second before gravity noticed that I was doing something that I shouldn't be. And at that moment, you might believe that a man could fly. Yes, it is an awkward kind of flying, legs all splayed out behind me, bloody hands bound together with duct tape, mouth open in a full scream that would inevitably end in with a stream of cuss words, their only purpose to illustrate my pain. In the distance behind me, the car slammed its brakes and skidded to a stop, a cloud of acrid smoke rising from the tires to join the Camaro's dust cloud. Go ahead and laugh. You know you want to. It's not like you have to deal with the pain of landing and bouncing down the desert road. It's no skin off your back, but it certainly was several layers off mine. No, that was my particular fate at that moment. That frozen moment never happened because gravity is a bitch and has no sense of chill. Fuck! Bounce. Ow! Bounce. Shit! Roll and bounce. Ow! Splat. Rasshole! That, of course, was my progress down the road. It may have gone on a little bit longer than that and involved a lot more Bajan swear words I had picked up from my dad whenever he'd happened to be around, which hadn't been much, but when he had, lots of swearing had been involved. We must have been speeding at well over 140 kilometers per hour, and man, that is a lot of rolling and cursing. I was a mass of scrapes and cuts and bruises, each one stinging and screaming for attention in different ways as I somehow managed to pull myself to my very unsteady feet. My head rang in that familiar, you just got a concussion way, and my brain was trying to tell me something, but my senses were buried in a thick fog. I think one of my fingers was broken, but it was hard to tell. Something was screaming at me to get moving. Don't look back, just get moving and run, and for fuck's sake, don't look back. I looked back. Striding steadily toward me through the dust and smoke was Beatrice, and goddamn if she wasn't the angel of death. The katana that she unsheathed as she walked added to the ensemble in a way that said she knew exactly how cool she looked. But that was Beatrice for you. Don't run, Bob. Embrace it. Fuck that, I yelled. How about we do the complete opposite of that? Beatrice only laughed and sped up her walk. I tried to implore to her good side. Let's just go someplace dark and talk about me not dying. Blaze of glory, Bob. I looked over my shoulder at the horizon, where the sun was still promising an eventual appearance, and then looked back to Beatrice, realizing that I was tired of running. Or maybe I was just too beat up to run. It had been a long night after all. Either way, it worked out the same. I was fucked. I watched Beatrice rising to the air, sword held up to strike. It was a beautiful and well-rehearsed jump that sent her flying through the air over the 50 feet that lay between us. Now that I think of it, it was the kind of leap that would have been awesome in a movie, especially with a sword raised like that. From my perspective on the ground, it was utterly terrifying. Beatrice's fangs were bared in a grin, and I knew she was getting a kick out of the violence she was about to inflict on me. Her brilliant blue vampire eyes focused on my own as she prepared to drive the sword through my heart. At least I would go out like I tried to live my life. I raised both of my battered and torn middle fingers and flipped her off. Shit. Almost everything I just told you is a lie. Not the actual story, just more of a fact type thing, if you know what I mean. If you ask Beatrice what happened, believe me, her story would be completely different, and it would not even involve a car speeding through the desert. Like, seriously, who tells a story this epic and leaves out a speeding car in the desert? Fine, be that way. Look, facts don't matter here, only the truth. And the truth is that my story changes every time I tell it. It's not entirely my fault, though. I mean, it's not like I'm going out of my way to lie. I just end up editing stuff a little bit here and there, so I look more badass. More like a hero. Everybody does it, just in tiny ways. Sometimes it's just about how you totally got the best of that jackass who cut in front of you at Starbucks with a perfectly timed snide comment, even though you only thought of it 20 minutes after the fact. Or maybe the story about how you finally told off Sarah and walked out on her instead of how you begged for her to stay and she left anyway and took the Xbox with her since she's the one who actually paid for it. How you tell the story of it shapes how everybody looks at you, and you want to see the looks on their faces as they imagine themselves in your shoes and think of how they would have done the exact same thing. Only they, of course, imagine that they look even more badass. People are strange that way. So anyway, sticking to the facts, the desert thing never happened. The truth is, I'm from Toronto and there are no deserts anywhere around here. At least not unless you drive a few hours away, and even then, there's still no real desert to speak of. It just doesn't sound so cool when it's the road to the lakeside beach 20 miles out of town that we're talking about. Kinda super lame if you ask me. Desert equals epic with a lack of anything around, and maybe some of that cool, weary heat thing in the distance. Beach equals obnoxious seagulls and a few houses here and there. Definitely not an epic looking wasteland by any means. So, to be clear, no desert, just beach. I didn't escape from a car trunk either, although that would have been way more awesome and a lot less embarrassing than what actually did happen. But then there's the whole sordid mess of how I even got to that point at all. That's a whole story in itself, and I can either give you the Cliff Notes version or not get into all the gritty detail, but nobody's got time for that, right? Oh, you do? Of course you do. Fine then. I'll try to be as honest as possible, but don't hold me to that. When there's a chance for me to look like a badass, I'm probably going to take that option. So I'm not making too many promises. Just as long as we agree that everything I'm about to tell you is almost the complete truth. Ready? Okay. That is it for chapter one. Well, that was actually the prologue. So it's a little bit of a cheat. I mean, I could go on and read the chapter one, but this is about the first thing you read when you see the novel. But that's it for So I Might Be a Vampire. You can check out more of my work on Wattpad by following the link in my description. I am Rodney V. Smith. That's actually my name. I am Rodney V. Smith. And this is actually a rewrite of one of my the first version of a rewrite that I now have on Wattpad called How Not to Be a Vampire. You can go check it out. on Wattpad. It's being serialized and new chapters are being released every week. So don't forget to click the like button down there and subscribe if you want to listen to me read some more first chapters. I'll be covering more stories from Black authors like myself for the rest of the month. But you can also find the reading list on my profile and on Wattpad on the front page. There's a nice big banner there that says Black Stories Matter. I update 5 days a week and there's always something new to find. Happy reading.
She said, my love is like a cloud, trying to get you over. You like love sour, then you should come try my